New millennium, the year 2000, and round one of the World 250cc Motocross Championship came to Talavera here in Spain. Race one got off the line. British interest in this race, of course, Mark Jones, the Welshman, and Gordon Crockard, number 13, the CAS Honda rider on the privateer machine, led this one away. Crockard keeping the rest of the field behind him. Look back for number one, the defending champion. That's, of course, Frenchman Frédéric Bolley. And, of course, the new Frenchman tipped to maybe take the championship this year, number 15. There he is, Mickael PICHON. But it wasn't a good start for fellow Frenchman, 77, Yves DEMARIA on the Yamaha. He'd been off the bike twice in the opening race, down in 30th spot. But the scrap was on at the front. There was Bolley battling with the other riders. There was no sign of the 15 Corona Suzuki rider, Mickael PICHON. Pit BEIRER, the German, 7th, second in the series last year. But Jones, number 12, falling there and bringing down the New Zealander, number 7, Josh Coppins, teammate to that number 15 rider. And there he is again, Mickael PICHON. But Crockard, in a determined mood, kept the world champion Frédéric Bolley behind him to take the race here at the opening heat of the World Motocross 250cc series in Spain. Crockard, Bolley, PICHON then up to third. Mickael Maschio, Josh Coppins, Pit BEIRER and Brit Paul Cooper up to 7th place. Race 2 off the line. Will we see a repeat of Crockard's performance in race 1? Local Spaniard number 80 Alonso almost took the whole shot, but the American Palmo rider Ryan Hughes had shot into the lead, but Alonso soon made his way back to the delight of the partisan local crowd. Alonso from Maschio, then Mark Jones, then it was Hughes down to 4th, Colin Dugmore, Bellametti and Frenchman Paget. There was Crockard in 8th place, but Mark Jones, the youngest member of the Palmo team there, colliding with fellow teammate American Ryan Hughes. For Jones, it wasn't a good start to the season, but meanwhile out front, it was Mickael Maschio on the Winfield Kawasaki that led the rest of the field. Hughes was beginning to make his way back up to the front of the pack. Meanwhile, DeMaria was also on a bit of a roll, but it wasn't long before Maschio took a bit of a heavy fall and he was out of this race. Then it was left to DeMaria to demote the local rider Alonso down a place as Crockard closed in on the two in front. Could Crockard get up to 3rd or 4th place? This effectively at this stage would have given him the overall result. Crockard battling hard, going past the Spaniard. Hughes was now 1st, DeMaria was 2nd, Crockard was 3rd, but his luck was to change. Catching his leg in the rear swinging arm, losing a couple of places, having to pull the bike backwards to free that leg, dropped him down to 5th place. It wasn't enough to get him the overall result. Bolley, second race, he went out. Not a good start for the defending champion. But Ryan Hughes, the American, came through to take his first Grand Prix win. Pleased with that. DeMaria chased him home in 2nd place. Then it was PICHON. Crockard was 4th, and that was enough for the overall result. Then Cooper, Alonso and BEIRER in 7th. So there it was, Crockard taking the first Grand Prix win of the year. PICHON, Hughes, Cooper, BEIRER, DeMaria and Bolley. That meant Crockard led the World Championship at round 1. Round 2, Aguida, here in Portugal. Sunny. Could Crockard, the Irishman, who currently led the series after round 1, do it again? Well, the gate dropped and here they came into that left-hander. Bolley got a good start there, but it was crash and burn for some of the riders. Patrick Paget there, number 35, being one of them. DeMaria was also caught up in that little melee. But the race was on at the front. It was Mickael Maschio, Mickael PICHON, the two Frenchmen going at it, but it wasn't long before Bolley decided to join in on that. Bolley 3rd place, Maschio pushed down to 4th now, so it was all cut and thrust here on this Portuguese circuit as the current world champion Frédéric Bolley tried in desperation to get past German Pit BEIRER there in front of him. And BEIRER on the Kawasaki, but Bolley trying everything he could, including the traditional block pass into the corner. It was enough to push him through. But PICHON then, number 15, the man so tipped to win the World Championship this year, won the opening race here in Portugal. BEIRER came home in second place. Bolley dropped back to third. Then it was Mickael, Coppins, Justin Morris and Paul Cooper rounding out the top 7. So with race 1 winner number 15 there, Mickael PICHON on the inside. Could he do it again here in Portugal in race 2? Could the defending champion Federici Bolley do better than third place? Well, it was the German BEIRER then that shot off into the lead. In pursuit, the number 15 bike, the Corona Suzuki of Mickael PICHON. His teammate Josh Coppins wasn't far behind him. And it wasn't long before the German and the Frenchman were going at it corner to corner to corner. The Suzuki against the Winfield Kawasaki. BEIRER, again a runner-up last year in the series. Could this year be his winning year? PICHON hot after coming back into the series last year after an unhappy 2 years in America. Mickael Maschio, teammate to BEIRER, getting himself in all kind of trouble there, just managing to stay on the track. Justin Morris was having a good little tussle as well with the New Zealander Josh Coppins. But Morris decided to give the track builders a little bit of a hand at taking it down. And the result was a back wheel firmly wrapped up in trackside tape. But PICHON was the boy that was certainly hot to trot here in Portugal. Race 2, another win, another set of 20 points, and now he leads the World 250cc World Championship. Clearly delighted with the result. PICHON, BEIRER, Maschio, DeMaria, Cooper, Coppins and Colin Dugmore, the South African, 7th place. So PICHON with 40 points took the overall result from BEIRER and Maschio. Coppins, Cooper, Bolley and Justin Morris, the 2 Brits there in the top 7. This is how the points stood after 2 rounds. PICHON leading with 70. Could he do it again in Valkenswaard in Holland, in the deep sand? A big crowd had turned out to enjoy the racing here. It was a triple header, but of course the 250s were what everybody had come to see. The club had reported a record turnout of spectators. Gordon CROCKARD, number 13 on the inside there, looking to put himself back up to the front, somewhere near the front in the world standings after this 3rd round. But as they came round for the opening lap, Bolley was in 2nd place. Remy van Ries, number 9, a man that should know his way around this track, was back in 2nd. Then it was Maschio. BEIRER was there as well. But Maschio and BEIRER, 2 teammates, both riding for Jan de Groot's Winfield Kawasaki, were having a right old tete-a-tete from corner to corner. Neither of them could make their mind up who was going to lead that little group. But Bolley, Van Ries, Maschio, DeMaria. CROCKARD was down in 12th place. Not good for the Irishman after such a hopeful start to the season in Spain. Van Ries dropping down the pace, but here was the man that had decided it was time to fly the French flag again, but almost not in this race. And with a considerable lead over 2nd place man, he can afford the odd mistake or 2. So Federici Bolley there proving why he is the world champion. 26 years of age from Marseille in France. Came through then to take the checkered flag in race 1 here in Valkenswaard. Pit BEIRER held on for 2nd place, then PICHON, Van Ries, Maschio, DeMaria, Coppins once again there in the top 7. Race 2, could Bolley do it again? CROCKARD again on the inside there, not a good race for CROCKARD, the first one. As they got into that first corner, it was Mickael Maschio on the number 6 bike. Number 15, Mickael PICHON there in 2nd place. Could PICHON turn the tables on fellow Frenchman Bolley in this one? Or could Bolley get himself back in front again? PICHON went through to take Maschio. He now led on the Corona Suzuki. Maschio on the Winfield Kawasaki, hanging on to 2nd place desperately. This was really going to be a race of attrition. And the British rider number 22, Justin Morris, in 3rd place. He in turn having a great scrap there with Remy van Ries. Morris on the privateer Yamaha. Bolley was in 4th, Van Ries was 6th, Morris was 5th. But Bolley was once again on the move, trying to make his way back up through the field after a poor start. He had Maschio and he also had BEIRER, the German, in front of him. It didn't take BOLLEY long to pyre his way past the German, BEIRER. Another good scrap was on here between number 7, Josh Coppins, the New Zealander, and local man Remy van Ries. Up front, BOLLEY 14 seconds behind PICHON. Could he catch him before the end of this one? The Pamo Honda rider had a lot to do. Could he do it? That's the question that was being asked. BEIRER, meanwhile, had a big crash further on down the track and was coasting around almost unconscious on the bike. New Zealander Josh Coppins going through, and as you can see by the body language of BEIRER, he was not in the best of conditions. However, this young man was. He led. 10 seconds of difference now between first and second. PICHON, Mickael, 24 years of age, held on to it for the checkered flag, just lapping Justin Morris at the end. So PICHON won it. Race 2 here in Valkenswaard. And BEIRER, doggedly determined not to give up, just kept going. And in the end collapsed on the finish, but he still finished the race. He was led off to the medical centre to be checked. Slight concussion, so the result stood like this. PICHON, BOLLEY, Mickael, FEDERICI, Coppins, van Ries and Peter Ivan, first time in the top 7. So BOLLEY then took the overall result from PICHON, Mickael, van Ries, Coppins, FEDERICI and BEIRER held on in that second race to take 7th place. The two Brits, Gordon CROCKARD, Justin Morris, finishing 9th and 10th. So, round 3 was over. Pamo Honda's Frédéric Bollé had won that one. It all moved on next to Italy, Mantova. And it was a celebrity turnout. Miss Italy 1998. She was here to support Claudio FEDERICI. So race 1, PICHON on the inside there, number 15. Could he do it here? Second overall at the previous round. Could he get some points back over Frédéric Bollé? Well, not everybody got safely away, but it was Bellometti that led them round. On the Kawasaki, Bellometti, a local man to this circuit, and DeMaria was in all sorts of trouble. He'd taken a very heavy tumble on the opening lap. Bellometti soon had series leader Frenchman Mickael PICHON there behind him, and PICHON took no time whatsoever in pushing through to take the lead. The reason being is he knew that Bollé was on the case and he was spinning the close. There was Claudio FEDERICI banging handlebars with the current world champion. Josh Coppins was behind, watching all the action, waiting for them two to fall over each other. But Claudio FEDERICI, no doubt spurred on with the attendance of Miss Italia in his pit area, was going for gold here. Pushes his way through Bellometti on the inside. Bellometti now had to deal with the world champion Frédéric Bollé, and Bollé was taking no prisoners. He was on the case now and trying to catch the man in front, which of course was the Italian Claudio FEDERICI, and it wasn't long before he was with him. Hughes was in 5th place, Coppins was in 6th place, but Bollé went through past Italian FEDERICI to take 2nd. Meanwhile, teammate to Bollé, the American Ryan Hughes, still suffering with that wrist injury he'd picked up earlier in the season, was charging on. But for some people, this particular Grand Prix was turning out to be just one big bump and bounce. Sweden's Joachim Eliasson, he didn't enjoy that. We were glad to say that he got up afterwards and walked away from it. Meanwhile, Mickael PICHON came through to take race 1 win. Another 20 points. Happy with that result. Second place was Bollé. FEDERICI was 3rd. Hughes, Coppins, Bellometti and Loris Freeberg, the Latvian rider, in 7th place. Race 2 came down onto the line. Oh, were we going to see a repeat performance at the previous Grand Prix with PICHON winning one, Bollé winning the other? The gate was about to drop. Hughes, Bollé and PICHON neck and neck going off that start line into that first corner. And as always, the corner just a little bit too small for 30 riders. Peter Ivan, number 21, safely avoiding all the carnage. But Mickael PICHON was the young man that took the Corona Suzuki out in front. Bollé was there and so was Hughes, back in 3rd place. So are we going to see a Pamo versus Suzuki battle for this second race result? Bolley trying everything he could now with his teammate there right behind him. Hughes trying just a little too hard. Well, Peter Ivan here and Mickael PICHON having a little coming together. Meanwhile, German Pit BEIRER and Ryan Hughes were going at it corner to corner. Eliasson, Fuller in race 1, was back in 9th place. Down went BEIRER. He wasn't having the best of Grand Prix here. Meanwhile, out front, PICHON and Bolley were knocking handlebars, jump to jump, corner to corner, and PICHON allowing Bolley momentarily to go through, then coming back over the jump. This really was a race to the line between these two Frenchmen, and it was a case of resorting to elbows at times. So PICHON there showing Bolley that he can give as good as he gets, and a problem for PICHON allowing Bolley to go through. Afterwards he explained to us that he had a bit of leg cramps and that's why he had to back it off, but it wasn't long before he got himself back together again, and he came back past the world champion and passed to claim the second race of the day. So that was another 40 points to add to his existing tally in the World Championship, keeping him clear out in the lead. Bolley had to settle for second place. BEIRER came home in third with Federici in fourth. Paul Cooper and Gordon Crockard fought for fifth place. Ryan Hughes eventually finished in seventh. The overall result then went to PICHON with the double win. Bolley, Federici, Hughes, BEIRER, Cooper and Josh Coppins once again in the top 7. So as PICHON now confirmed leading the World Championship with 145 points, Bolley behind him with 106. Then it was BEIRER, Coppins, Crockard, who led after the opening round, was down in 5th. But PICHON was certainly the boy they were all going to have to catch this year. Lockett in the Czech Republic. Bright sunny day welcomed our thousands of fans that had turned out to enjoy the racing. Heat 1 got underway. PICHON, remember, it is that led the series, coming here today with 145 points. What could he do here in Lockett? Let's have a look at that start again. Someone left on the gate, but they got into that right-hander, and Justin Morris, the Brit rider on the Yamaha, taking a big tumble off the bike. Luckily, he was able to get up and get back on it again, all apart from picking up some trackside tape in his front disc. It was Claudio FEDERICI, the Italian, that led them away. Bolley was back in second place. Meanwhile, PICHON was down in fourth. But it wasn't long before Bolley was trying to nudge his way past the race leader, and the Italian just had to give way on the Yamaha. Bolley was out in front, enjoying the hard-packed track here at Lockett. Some riders weren't finding it so easy, just acting as rolling roadblocks and bringing down others. Well, you could say that some people ride to have a better day. Peter Ivan there, number 21, being passed by German Pit BEIRER. BEIRER, who qualified up in third place, had got a terrible start. He was down and around 22nd, but the German had his head down and was looking for a higher finish. Meanwhile, Claudio FEDERICI was now under pressure from number 15, and that, of course, is series leader Mickael PICHON, the Frenchman. PICHON looked across at the Italian, thanked him for allowing him to go through. So PICHON was up to second. Bolley led. Now it was the turn of Frenchman Yves DEMARIA to go past the Italian. So we were looking at French 1, 2 and 3. Had this been a French Grand Prix, no doubt the local crowd would have been even more ecstatic. So Bolley it was that came around to take race 1 win. Hello Frenchman. PICHON just 5 seconds behind him. Then it was DEMARIA, so Frenchman 1, 2 and 3. Italian Claudio FEDERICI, Josh Coppins, Ryan Hughes and Serge Cadetti in 7th place. Well, Lockett certainly was the place to be. A fantastic Grand Prix, fabulous people. Race 2 got off the line. And for one of our cameramen, it was a question of thinking, am I standing in the right place? Well, I ain't moving. But Mickael PICHON, number 15, led them around. Ryan Hughes was behind him. Let's have a look at that start again. You'll see our cameraman there, just to the right of your picture. And did he move? The answer was only just. So for Ryan Hughes, things went sadly wrong in this second race, crashing out down the big hill. Lucky not to collect any other riders. He got back on the bike and he was proved to be okay. Meanwhile, Fed BOLLEY was having a bit of a tete-a-tete with Brit Mark Eastwood, number 16. Eastwood refusing to let the world champion pass. PICHON led, BEIRER was second, DEMARIA was third. New Zealand's Josh Coppins was fourth. Then it was Guidetti and Eastwood, but BOLLEY soon moved the Brit down to seventh, and he went through to take that sixth place and in pursuit of Serge Guidetti, who was currently in fifth. 4 laps gone, so BOLLEY confirmed in that sixth place. Guidetti the next man on his list, and that was it. He was up to fifth. BEIRER was fourth, BOLLEY fifth, and BOLLEY getting quicker and quicker lap after lap, and it wasn't long before he was inside the German and passed him for fourth place. So the French winner of race 1 was certainly in the mood to take race 2 if he could just catch Mickael PICHON. Josh Coppins, PICHON's teammate, proving to be more difficult to get past for the Frenchman BOLLEY, but the New Zealander Coppins finally had to give way. Meanwhile, his teammate Mickael PICHON out in front, unaware of the action that's going on behind him, clearly with one intention in mind, and that's to win this second race. DEMARIA was in second, but only momentarily, because BOLLEY shot straight past him and took that second place. Now, could he catch that man who led the race? And the answer to that was definitely no. BEIRER was back in fourth, Coppins was fifth, but Mickael PICHON went on to win the second race here in Lockett in the Czech Republic. BOLLEY came home then to take second place. DEMARIA was third, BEIRER was fourth, Coppins was fifth, Federici and Cooper sixth and seventh. The overall result then went to PICHON by the win in the second race. BOLLEY, DEMARIA, Federici, Coppins, BEIRER and Paul Cooper, the Brit, finishing 7th place, 14 points. This is how the standings stood. It was PICHON from BOLLEY from BEIRER, Coppins, Federici, Cooper and DEMARIA. Cooper hanging on to that 6th place in the championship. So it was an all-French affair here in the Czech Republic. As we moved on to the next round, Spa in Belgium, the famous road race circuit. This was round 7. Round 6 at Fox Hills in Great Britain had been cancelled due to bad weather conditions, but the weather here was looking a little brighter. Race 1 then on the line. It was a triple header Grand Prix. The 125s had raced on the Saturday. The 250s and 500s were here on the Sunday. Big crowd had turned out at this Georges Jobet design circuit, but Mickael PICHON once again set the scene alight. Britain's Paul Cooper had got the whole shot. PICHON was chasing in second place, looking to get past the SoCal Husqvarna rider, and it didn't take him long to do just that. The confidence of the Brit growing and growing as Pit BEIRER launched an overtaking move on the downhill jump. Cooper tried to fight back, but BEIRER was having none of it. He stayed there, so the battle was on for first place between the Frenchman and the German Pit BEIRER, and BEIRER tried everything he could to get past Mickael PICHON. But PICHON was staying on the bike at this stage. Conditions were very treacherous, as you can see. BEIRER tried the outside line. PICHON took the inside line, then moved to the outside to block. BEIRER went for that fast overtaking move where he took Cooper, shot up the inside of the Frenchman, and that was enough to launch him into the lead. But for PICHON, it all came to a very sticky end just then, getting the front wheel into the deep mud, allowing the German to get away. Meanwhile, further down the field, number 16, Mark Eastwood, passing Ryan Hughes, number 4. At this stage, he decided that wrist injury was just too severe to continue. BEIRER, meanwhile, went on to take his first Grand Prix win of the season. Clearly happy with the result. So could this be the turning point for the German's fortunes? BOLLEY chased him home in second place. And despite getting stuck in the mud, Mickael PICHON managed to finish third. Then it was Cooper, Coppins, Federici, and Danny Thabers here in front of the Belgium crowd finished 7th. Well, bit of entertainment between races, and our pom-pom girls here, lovely as they were, providing just that. Race 2. Who this time would get the all-important hole shot? Remember, Paul Cooper did it in race 1. Could he do it in race 2? It was a very hard-fought battle for the lead. Cooper almost made it, but DeMaria took it away from him on the second corner. So 77, Frenchman Yves DEMARIA, a former 500 rider, was out there battling, but so was Mickael PICHON, so was BOLLEY, but it wasn't long before DeMaria hit the dirt once again. Taking a big tumble on a downhill jump. Yves DEMARIA was to be carried off the circuit, but was later to be declared A-OK. Meanwhile, the tussle was on between the German Pit BEIRER once again and the Frenchman Frédéric BOLLEY. These two going at it corner to corner to corner in this very demanding natural terrain circuit that had been designed by former World 500cc Motocross champion Georges Joubert. PICHON going past Danny Thabers, then it was the turn of his teammate number 7, Josh Coppins. So Thabers going down another place. Meanwhile, Thabers had decided to throw his bike away in big style over one of the jumps, almost taking 13 here, Gordon CROCKARD with him. But Danny got back on the bike on the Millennium KTM. He wasn't the only one in trouble. Number 9, Remy Van Ries, testing out the safety fencing. He was in 7th place, but was to drop down the order. Meanwhile, BOLLEY came through to take the second heat win. So, BEIRER had taken the first one, BOLLEY had taken the second. A good result for BOLLEY. BEIRER had finished second, so BOLLEY was on the top of the podium. PICHON had finished third again. Coppins, Cooper, Federici, CROCKARD had managed to finish in 7th. So as the champagne flowed, BEIRER clearly happy with that result. So PICHON now 212 points in the lead. BOLLEY was second. BEIRER, Coppins, Federici, and the two Brits, Cooper and CROCKARD, still in 6th and 7th. We moved on to Brou, the GP of France. And all eyes, of course, were not just on her. They were on the number 15 bike of Mickael PICHON, the number 1 bike of Frédéric BOLLEY. We were here in France, their home Grand Prix. And it was PICHON then that stuck his bike out in the lead. Mark Eastwood was there in 2nd place, but on the floor, one of those riders, number 18, the South African Brit, Paul Cooper. CROCKARD, meanwhile, was beginning to make his way up the order. The winner of the opening round in Spain. His luck hadn't gone so well since that great result. Josh Coppins behind CROCKARD. Mark Eastwood, number 16, was also in there. Son of former top scrambler Vic Eastwood. But Coppins was pushing hard. CROCKARD led 77 DEMARIA. DEMARIA demoted him. Next man along would be BEIRER. He went straight through past CROCKARD. Then it was number 7, Josh Coppins, chasing those 3 in front. But BOLLEY was sandwiched in that little group. What could he do? BEIRER came out on top. DEMARIA behind him. Then it was BOLLEY. Then CROCKARD. BOLLEY soon passed DEMARIA, but DEMARIA was having none of it. Came straight back at the fellow Frenchman. These two were going at it corner to corner to corner. DEMARIA determined to hang on to that place, but BOLLEY said, no, I'd like to go at the German in front. It wasn't long before he was doing just that. So PICHON led as the rest of the field fought for the remaining places. Gordon CROCKARD was having his own fair share of troubles with the New Zealander Josh Coppins, number 7 there, taking CROCKARD. Meanwhile, out front, it was BOLLEY versus PICHON, and PICHON was having none of it, making sure that his fellow Frenchman did not take this win from him. BOLLEY had to sit back in 2nd place and watch that Corona Suzuki once again move out into the distance and towards the inevitable checkered flag, which he took. Although a little bit questionable about the block pass tactic, but as far as PICHON was concerned, that was good enough. So Pichon then from BOLLEY, BEIRER, DEMARIA, COPPINS, FEDERICI, CROCKARD held on to 7th place. Well, the big crowd here was certainly entertained at this Motocross Grand Prix, and our pom-pom girls were here to give us a display of their aerobic abilities, and we enjoyed every moment of it. So race 2 then. Were we going to see a repeat win there from Pichon, or was it going to be somebody else? Would BOLLEY sneak this one into that first corner? And they all survived it this time. It was the German Pit BEIRER that led them through, number 2. Number 18 there, Paul Cooper on the SoCal Husqvarna was also challenging for the lead. Cooper's confidence building Grand Prix after Grand Prix. Pichon was there in 3rd place, looking to get past the Brit. Then it was Coppins, and it wasn't long before BOLLEY was on the scene, shoving his way past everybody, including the race leader, number 2, German Pit BEIRER. So BOLLEY in determined mood. It was the turn then of Frenchman Mickael PICHON to give BEIRER the old heave-ho as he went through. Paul Cooper sitting back behind those two, watching all the fun. Then it was Cooper's turn to give Pit BEIRER a bit more of the heave-ho, and he did just a little bit more than heave. He hoed as well, and that was the result. Coppins tried to make the better of that particular coming together. But for BEIRER, that was a bad day at its worst. The machine had just decided to stop, and he was out. Shakes his head, but Frédéric Bolley, unaware of all the drama behind him, was on course then to pick up the heat win. So Pichon winning the first one, Bolley winning the second one. This meant Bolley had another overall result. So there it is, Bolley, Pichon, Coppins, Cooper, DeMaria, Federici and Peter Ivan, the Belgium, in 7th place. The overall result went to Bolley by means of the second race from Pichon, Coppins, DeMaria, Federici, Cooper and Peter Ivan, 7th overall. That was the point standing. Bolley still chasing Pichon. BEIRER was still there, Coppins, Federici and Cooper and CROCKARD had now moved back up into 7th place. We moved on to the Slovak Republic. It was a very wet Grand Prix here. The crowd had turned out as the riders came down onto the line for the first heat. Was this going to be another battle between the two Frenchmen, Bolley and Pichon? Was BEIRER going to overcome his disappointment from that breakdown in the second race at the previous Grand Prix? Well, it's obvious that he had, because he was out there in the lead. DeMaria was in there as well. Circuit conditions were very tricky. Alex Bellametti, number 10 there, alongside number 2, the German Pit BEIRER. And BEIRER in a storming mood at the moment, dealing with these slippery conditions better than anyone else. Bellametti with DeMaria, and it wasn't long before DeMaria made a mistake. Big crash over the tabletop, very lucky to get away with that. CROCKARD was 7th, Loris Freebergs, Cooper, Dugmore, Bolley was down in 11th place. Chalier was in 12th place. Josh Coppins, number 7 here, who was looking to finish in the top 4 in this year's Grand Prix series, was riding out of his skin in these wet conditions here in the Slovak Republic. Michael Maschio, he was also on the move, going past Bellametti, number 10. So the young Frenchman with the Kawasaki team coping with these very, very wet and slippery conditions. Meanwhile, Mickael PICHON was on the move. Gordon CROCKARD was practicing his speedway tactics around the corner. And that's one young man that should be very used to riding in these kind of conditions coming from Northern Ireland. Frédéric Bolley, he was having his own fair share of troubles, and so was Paul Cooper on the Motorex SoCal Husqvarna. But Bolley making mistakes in the wet mire. He'd been off the bike, now down in 18th place. his chances of catching Pichon in the championship were beginning to slip further away. But for other riders, it was just a question of trying to get up the big hill. And for Mickael PICHON, it wasn't proving to be too much of a problem. But for the Holt JCB runner, Stuart Flockard, he had just about given it up and decided to walk home. Meanwhile, BEIRER was on course to take his second Grand Prix win of the year. A big smile would be seen on his face when they presented him with the trophy. So BEIRER's chances of getting higher in the series better and better round by round. BEIRER, Coppins, PICHON, Pichon, Federici, Dugmore and Bellometti finishing in 7th place. Weather conditions were improving. Track had started to dry out. We were going to get a faster start to this race. Who was going to get the all-important hole shot? It was Gordon Crockard under number 13 CAS Elf Honda, but for BEIRER it was disaster on that first turn. Lucky not to pick up another rider. He got away almost dead last, but Crockard was in the lead, followed by PICHON. Then it was Bellometti. So Gordon Crockard trying to repeat the performance he had at the opening Grand Prix at Talavera in Spain. Sandro Bellometti was there behind him, number 10. Then it was Claudio Federici, the Italian, number 69, who was starting to put his racing act together. Had a poor start to the season. Meanwhile, PICHON had gone past Crockard. And you'd have thought Crockard, being from Northern Ireland, would be more used to these kind of wet conditions. Federici was the next man that was knocking on the back door of Gordon Crockard, and it wasn't long before the little Italian stuck his Yamaha up the inside of the Honda. So PICHON, Federici, Crockard, Bolley was still in there, and so was Coppins. PICHON led. Federici decided, well, he wanted to lead as well, and he duly did. Meanwhile, Pichon and Coppins were having their own little tete-a-tete. Coppins getting the better of the series leader, Mickael PICHON, obviously not enjoying the wet conditions. Another man not enjoying the wet conditions was 77 Yves DEMARIA, still smarting from that big crash in race 1. Meanwhile, further down the field, Marco Dorsch, number 44, was having his own share of slippery problems. Pichon was 5th, Coppins was 6th, Bellometti was 7th. Dorsch from 9th, he dropped down to about 11th at this stage. So Federici still led. Meanwhile, Mickael PICHON didn't quite know where he wanted to go and ended up back on the floor. Still, for the Winfield Kawasaki runner, 3rd place was where he was going to end up if he could just get the bike started. Bellometti was still going well on the number 10 bike. Danny Thabers went through, and there was the number 2 bike of German Pit BEIRER. Despite being on the floor in the opening corner, was charging his way back up the field, looking for some useful points. Federici, Crockard, Bolley, Pichon, Coppins and PICHON. That was the top 6 on the 10th lap. PICHON now down in 6th place, Coppins up to 5th. And Danny Thabers here, number 33, giving Mickael PICHON another little nudge off the track as BEIRER came through. Bolley ended up on the floor. Pichon, series leader, went through, thanking his lucky stars that Bolley had made that mistake. Although Claudio Federici went on to take his very first Grand Prix win of the year. And his team were more than delighted with that result. So the Yamaha rider there, winning the race from Gordon Crockard, Mickael PICHON, Bolley, Coppins, BEIRER and Danny Thabers, the Belgium, 7th place. Overall result went to Federici, his first one of the year, from BEIRER, from Pichon, Coppins, PICHON, Crockard and Thabers, also 7th place and 15 points. Mickael PICHON was now 47 points in the lead from Bolley, BEIRER, Coppins, Federici and Cooper and Crockard, still arguing over that 6th position in the standings. The next round moved on to Keister in Belgium. Big crowd had turned out once again here in Belgium to enjoy the motocross racing, including the L&M girls. Race 1 was on the line. The track had picked up some overnight rain. It was looking quite tacky as they charged into that first left-hand corner. DeMaria had got the whole shot. PICHON was there as well. But these two collided with each other at the bottom of the drop. And this was going to put PICHON out of the race effectively. It was the German Pit BEIRER that led them away, with CROCKARD behind him as PICHON headed back to the mechanics area to try and get the bike fixed. It was a broken front brake lever. Meanwhile, CROCKARD had gone into the lead. BEIRER was there behind him, waiting for a mistake from the Irishman. In third place, it was BOLLEY, but BOLLEY soon decided a win would be nice, and he moved up into second spot. Now to chase Gordon CROCKARD, but BOLLEY also was making mistakes, allowing BEIRER to go back up into second. So BOLLEY now third. And it wasn't long before BEIRER and BOLLEY were at it again. This time BOLLEY staying on the bike and moving back up into second place. Meanwhile, Gordon CROCKARD had the Frenchman on the inside of him, and BOLLEY, giving CROCKARD absolutely no room, pushed him right onto the outside of the track, where he picked up some trackside tape in that back wheel, which effectively would slow him down. So BOLLEY it was, the Frenchman in good form, that came round to take the checkered flag here in race 1 in Keister. Mickael PICHON's any hope of winning this race went out of the door on that first corner. BEIRER was second, CROCKARD held on to third from Federici, Coppins, Cooper and Danny Thavers, top Belgian rider here. Race 2 got underway. Who this time would get that all-important first corner? Would DeMaria clash with PICHON again, or would they stay away from each other? It looked like Claudio FEDERICI that got a storming start this time. The 69 Italian Yamaha rider with Josh Coppins there right behind him. Let's have a look at that again. Number 6, Mickael went down in front of Gordon CROCKARD and was very lucky not to be collected, but not so lucky because Justin Morris did the job for CROCKARD. Maschio was judged to be okay after this incident, despite having his legs run over by Morris's back wheel. Meanwhile, Gordon CROCKARD and New Zealander Josh Coppins were having their own little share of fun. And PICHON and BOLLEY were also having a little bit of a tete-a-tete from corner to corner. BOLLEY determined to make it a double race win, going past PICHON, and PICHON fighting back, not scoring points in race 1 after that collision with DeMaria. There is DeMaria with Claudio FEDERICI, number 69. FEDERICI, who led this race away, now beginning to drop down through the order. DeMaria going through to move up one place, but Pit BEIRER very lucky to survive this incident. When he nosedived the bike over a big jump, he was so lucky not to go straight over the handlebars. But BOLLEY went on then to take the race win in Heat 2 and to take the overall result. PICHON was second, BEIRER was third, CROCKARD, DeMaria, FEDERICI and Paul Cooper rounded out that top 7. In the overall result, it was BOLLEY with 2 heat wins from BEIRER, CROCKARD, FEDERICI, Cooper, Coppins and DeMaria, top 7. So PICHON 294 points. The gap between the two of them beginning to reduce as we moved on to the next Grand Prix, Belo Horizonte here in Brazil. Big crowd had turned out to enjoy this World Motocross event. Who was going to get that all-important first corner? Claudio FEDERICI was looking good on the inside, but for BOLLEY, it all came to a sticky end when caught up in that little bit of a crash there. He would now have to come right from the back, and CROCKARD was also in trouble as well. Meanwhile, it was Maschio that led from FEDERICI. PICHON was there as well, battling hard against FEDERICI. Colin Dugmore, the South African, had gone out on the opening lap. It was Maschio, FEDERICI, PICHON. BEIRER, who fell, and his teammate Mickael Maschio was having his own share of problems here in Brazil. FEDERICI was still there, but there was BOLLEY after that start line crash. He was charging up through the field. A lot to do. BEIRER was down into 7th place. Thavers was behind him. The battle was on as Paul Cooper started to climb up the order. DeMaria was there with him, number 77. But Bolley had pulled out all the stops. He was bashing his way through the field as Danny Thabers, number 33 there, experienced. But Pichon took a big tumble and was lucky to get back up off the ground from that one. Meanwhile, it was Pit BEIRER battling through. So was Cooper with Bolley. The Frenchman trying to work his way back up the field. But he was in the top 6 now. But Mickael taking his first Grand Prix win of the year. To the delight of his mechanic, Mickael on the Kawasaki from Federici. Coppins, DeMaria, Bolley was up to 5th. Cooper was 6th, and BEIRER managed to get through to 7th place. Race 2. Who was going to get that first corner? The two Suzuki stars, Josh Coppins and Mickael were looking good for a great start to this one. Well, not everybody got the best of starts, but as they flew through the air here in Brazil, it was Pichon, Mickael, Cooper, DeMaria, Coppins and Dugmore, and down went Mickael once again, allowing DeMaria to move up a place. Paul Cooper was on the roll, but DeMaria had decided to take a different route around the track and was lucky not to get disqualified for not re-entering the circuit at the exact moment and place that he left. So the battle for first place was between Pichon, Cooper, Bolley and of course Mickael. Colin Dugmore, number 20 there, caught up amongst that little group of riders as Claudio FEDERICI crashed into the rider coming down the hill. And he wasn't the only one with problems, because for Pit BEIRER, another disastrous Grand Prix. The rear suspension had broken and all he could do was slip and slide his way down the hill to safety. BEIRER was out. Pichon was out front. He was on form here in Brazil and going for a race win, which he duly took. So Pichon from DeMaria, Bolley, Cooper, CROCKARD, Coppins and Mickael rounds out the top 7. The classification for DeMaria, his first Grand Prix win of the year. Mickael, Bolley. There is DeMaria with the champagne. He'll be happy with that result. Classification stood like this. Bolley was closing on Pichon with BEIRER still in 3rd. Coppins, FEDERICI, Cooper and CROCKARD still arguing over 6th place. We moved on to Grobendonk in Belgium, and the weather conditions could not have been worse. Torrential rain turned the circuit into a canal. But Sunday's race, the weather had brightened up, and so indeed had the scenery. The Yamaha girls here making their way up to the start for race 1. As the gate dropped, who was going to get that all-important left-hand corner? 45 members of the club had worked all night to get this circuit into a racing condition. They've done a splendid job. Pichon had got a stormer of a start, but for some of the other riders, it wouldn't look so good as they got into that first set of tight left-hand corners. They were all falling over each other. Mickael was amongst that group, but meanwhile out front, the two Corona Suzuki boys, Mickael PICHON and Josh Coppins, were beginning to pull away, with Yves DEMARIA in 3rd place. Danny Thabers here. He was in 5th, but not for long. Small mistake there, dropped him down the order as Van Rees come through. And for Claudio FEDERICI, a crash on the first corner took him out of race 1. BEIRER was chasing hard, trying to move up, making mistakes as he did so. Looking over his shoulder because the man behind him was the French world champion, Frédéric Bolley, and you couldn't give that man an inch because he would certainly take a mile, and he justly did, right through past the German. However, out front, things were looking good, but Remy Van Rees, number 9, was having a titanic scrap with DeMaria, 77. Pichon still led from Coppins from CROCKARD, and Van Rees in 4th there. And for Danny Thabers, number 33, it all came to a steamy end. But not for Mickael PICHON. He went on here to finish race 1. Clearly a winner. And well happy with that result was the young Frenchman, just 24 years of age. Had 2 unhappy years in America. He took the race from Coppins, his teammate CROCKARD, Van Rees, DeMaria, Ivan and Bolley down in 7th place. This wouldn't do Bollet's chances of winning the championship any good at all. Race 2 on the line. Could Bollet do something about it now? Or would Pichon go on and make it a double win? Honda and Suzuki into that first corner side by side, but it was the Suzuki of Josh Coppins that led them out. Cooper was there behind him with Crockard, Van Ries and Mickael. Federici was also there in 6th place. So where was Bollet? Where was Pichon? Well, for some, it was a question of picking up the right bike and riding off again. Meanwhile, Paul Cooper and Gordon Crockard were having their own little private war. And with Crockard holding on to that position, but for Mickael PICHON, this was to be the turning point in the Grand Prix, crashing heavily over one of the big jumps with a suspect broken shoulder. He would play no further part in this or the next Grand Prix. Meanwhile, Coppins still led it from Crockard Cooper. And Josh Coppins, the New Zealander, determined to take maybe his first moto win. Meanwhile, Bollet was having his own share of problems in the deep sand. So was Pit BEIRER, with the bike going all over the place, under pressure from the current world champion, Frederic Bollet. Bollet, as always, in that determined frame of mind, charged his way past the German, but Crockard was out there in front, and he would take second heat win, his second race moto win of the season. Well earned as well. So Gordon Crockard from Josh Coppins, from Cooper, Bollet, BEIRER, DeMaria and Peter Ivan, the Belgium, in 7th place. Classification then went to Crockard, his second overall result of the year. From Coppins, Cooper, Bollet, DeMaria, Van Ries and Mickael PICHON, despite not finishing race 2. So the Irishman clearly delighted with that second moto and second Grand Prix win. Next round of the series moved to the famous Namur circuit in Belgium. And the crowds had flocked in their thousands to this famous traditional motocross circuit. And they were here to cheer their Belgian riders. Mickael PICHON was back, but he wasn't 100%.
The pain is not so bad, just on the back it hurts a little bit, but the worst is that I have no strength on the shoulder. I can't hold the bike very good, make it very difficult to hold, and my neck also hurts. I get tired really quick. It was a really scary crash for me, and I'm happy with what I have. I mean, it's not such a big injury. It's really bad right now to have such a injury like this, because it's at the bad time, at the bad moment, but it's the minimum I can get.
Well, he qualified well up the order, but could he last the length of a full race? We'll wait and see as the gate dropped here at Namur on the first 250 race. Who is going to get that all-important hole shot? As they flashed through this famous Citadel area here in Belgium, it was Gordon Crockard, the Irishman on the number 13 CSL Honda, that led them through. Balametti was second place, then it was Bollet. Pichon was there in 4th, but it wasn't long before Crockard had made a mistake and he'd dropped the bike, hence dropping places in the order. The battle was on then between the two Frenchmen, Yves DeMaria and, of course, Bollet, but Pichon was in trouble. As suspected, that shoulder not able to last the full length of a race, and he retired. Meanwhile, out front, it was Yves DeMaria, who went on to win another MotoGP, just going to prove that the man still had the speed and what it took to win motocross Grand Prix heats. So DeMaria, BEIRER was second, Crockard finished in 3rd, Coppins, Federici, Cooper and Danny Thabers. Bollet had gone out in race 1 with a machine failure. Heat 2, as the bell tolled, can DeMaria do it again? Coppins there alongside him. Bollet, with the machine back in full feckle, was out in race 2. Who was going to get that all-important first corner? And this time it was Paul Cooper, number 18, riding that Motor X Elf Husqvarna. Federici was there as well, and so was Crockard. DeMaria second, Crockard was 3rd, BEIRER came through, then it was Mickael. And BEIRER putting Crockard under pressure. Kovalainen was back there in 6th place, but Paul Cooper's confidence was growing from Grand Prix to Grand Prix. CROCKARD under pressure from the German BEIRER. Maschio was back there behind BEIRER. It wasn't long before CROCKARD had dumped his fellow Brit on the floor. Cooper was out of this one. So DeMaria led from CROCKARD from BEIRER, and Bolley was up to 4th. Josh Coppins here with Federici. Then it was the turn of Maschio and Federici. Federici dropping down the order slightly, but beginning to regain his speed and confidence. He went back past Maschio. So Cooper at this point had gone down to about 8th place. Now it was the turn of BEIRER and Bolley to start wrapping handlebars. Remember, Bolley a DNF in race 1 with a mechanical failure. No points had been scored. DeMaria, winner of race 1, who'd raced here before with the 500s, knew the track well, proved the point by coming round to win race 2. And an overall result for the Frenchman. So DeMaria from CROCKARD, Bolley, BEIRER, Federici, Cooper and Coppins. That was the top 7 at the end of heat 2. The overall result then went to DeMaria from CROCKARD, BEIRER, Federici, Coppins, Cooper, Danny Thabers in front of his home crowd, 7th place. PICHON then 337 points, just 4 points in front of Bolley. All yet to play for. But as DeMaria went on to the rostrum to take his overall result here in Namur, we moved on to the next 250 round at Ettelbruck in Luxembourg. Now was the first heat came down onto the line. All between Bolley and PICHON at the moment for the World Championship. 3rd place was also in doubt because BEIRER was only a few points in front. So as they're heading into that first corner, back on the start gate, the German Pit BEIRER had an awful time. You see it again, he'd gone just a little bit too soon and caught the gate with his front wheel. He would now have to come from dead last. Meanwhile, 18 there, Paul Cooper on the Husqvarna was going for an absolute blindingly good start. Number 1, Bolley trying to squeeze out the other riders. But it was Claudio Federici then that got the drop on the rest of them out of the first corner. PICHON was in there and battling hard despite the shoulder problem. He needed to score points here today. He needed to stay within touch of Bolley. So Federici, Coppins, Maschio, Bolley and PICHON and Dorsch, Marco Dorsch there on the KTM number 44. But it wasn't long before Bolley was beginning to make a move. He was looking for a better finish. He was now on the case of Corona Suzuki number 7, Josh Coppins. Meanwhile, PICHON was beginning to drop back through the order as Bolley tried to get past Coppins, and he did. An extra point or two and more hard work for PICHON to do, who was still in touch with this leading group. But Coppins, teammate to PICHON, was fighting back. Meanwhile, out front, it was Claudio Federici. Remember, he took a win in the Slovak Republic. Could he take a win here? The Team Yamaha rider was certainly in the mood for a win. The young Italian showing that he does have the speed to take the maximum points. But Bolley was now closing on number 6, Mickael Maschio. And it didn't take the French world champion long to stick his bike past and up another position. Meanwhile, further down the field, it was all sparks again. Paul Cooper trying to get past DeMaria and Maschio. And Mickael Maschio dropping down the order. Back with Coppins once again. Bolley making an uncharacteristic mistake, allowing the New Zealander to get back through, but they were at it again. Let's have a look at it. Bolley tries to cut off the line of Coppins, and Coppins fights back. Tremendous race between these two. Josh Coppins, number 7. Teammate, remember. To Mickael PICHON, needing to do everything he could to keep Bolley further down the field. Out front, it was 69. Yamaha riding Italian, Claudio Federici. he was on course to take his second MotoGP win of his career this year. And almost overwheeled it in front of the crowd. So Bolley managed to get second from Coppins, DeMaria, Maschio, Cooper and Gordon Crockard, rounding out that top 7. Race 2 then, onto the line. What could Mickael PICHON do? That championship lead beginning to evaporate after that shoulder injury he picked up at Grobendonk. On the floor this time it was Paul Cooper, number 18. Yves DeMaria was alongside him. But again, out front, it was the fast gating 69 Yamaha of Claudio FEDERICI. Gordon Crockard had decided he wanted better points from race 2, so he went past the New Zealander. Josh Coppins. Justin Morris had the world champion Frederic Bolley there right behind him. And it wasn't long before the Brit was displaced another position, allowing Bolley to go up one. So Bolley was in no mood to hang around behind anybody. Up alongside Mickael PICHON. Remember, PICHON needed to stay in front of Bolley to keep his World Championship chances alive. Federici, Crockard, Coppins, Bolley and BEIRER, top 5. Mickael PICHON was down to 6 and would drop further back during the course of this second race. Meanwhile, Bolley and Coppins will once again swap in paintwork from corner to corner. And Bolley this time deciding he wasn't going to have any of it. DeMaria had decided he'd had enough in race 2, went back for an early shower. BEIRER was having his own little scrap with Gordon Crockard on the number 13 Honda. Crockard, remember, a double MotoGP winner, a double overall winner. This young man that only came into Grand Prix racing 2 years ago, finished 13th last year, was certainly on course to stamp his authority in this 2000 series. BEIRER making another mistake. His teammate Mickael PICHON on 14 laps had decided he'd had enough. BEIRER making mistakes again, very lucky to get away with that big crash. Second at the time as he bowed out going over that jump, chasing Crockard. The German, uninjured, got back on the bike to carry on racing. Meanwhile, Crockard now had Bolley there right behind him, and Bolley would probably give the Irishman the same sort of treatment that he gave Coppins. But there was no need to, because Bolley went straight past Crockard. Meanwhile, PICHON moving back up the order, 4th place. Fabers was in 7th. There was Bolley on his way towards the checkered flag. And another race win. The world champion was back on course to take his crown back for next year. Bolley, Crockard, PICHON, Cooper, Coppins, Zani, Danny Fabers, top 7. So there was the classification then. Bolley took the overall from Crockard and Coppins with Cooper, Federici, Fabers and Zani. And Bolley, to the delight of the crowd, now led the World Championship. 370 points from PICHON, Coppins, BEIRER, Federici. Crockard and Cooper were still battling over that 6th place. Next Grand Prix went to Germany, Taschenthal. Hot sunny day. The crowds had turned out in their thousands. Heat 1 got underway. Who was going to get that all-important first corner? It was Mickael PICHON. He needed to win here to keep any chances of a championship alive for this year. PICHON, he had Bolley behind him. The two World Championship contenders were going at it corner to corner. DeMaria was 3rd, but it wasn't long before Bolley, being a little fitter than the man behind him now, was making his way through into the lead. PICHON, knowing that if he lost to Bolley here, his chances of winning the World Crown for this year were over. Claudio Federici, however, the Italian, back on course and on form again, battling with number 7, Josh Coppins, teammate to PICHON. So the battles were on right down through the field. And Mickael PICHON now under pressure from fellow Frenchman 77 Yves DEMARIA, and DeMaria showing no mercy to his countrymen. The battles were on further down, because next along it was Mickael Maschio that was about to put PICHON down another place. So his chances of this World Championship were definitely slipping further and further away. Bolley led, DeMaria was second, BEIRER was third, Mickael PICHON and Josh Coppins, teammate to Mickael PICHON, and now decided, well, I'm not going to wait for you any longer, I'm going to have a crack at this, and so he duly did. Claudio FEDERICI was showing no mercy to PICHON either, as that shoulder began to take its toll on the Suzuki rider, dropping down through the field. Meanwhile, out front, Fred BOLLEY was on course to take race 1 win. He duly did from DeMaria, BEIRER, Coppins, Mickael, FEDERICI and Gordon CROCKARD, 7th place. Heat 1. So as the crowd waited for Heat 2 to come down onto the line, if BOLLEY could win this, if PICHON pulled out or didn't score, BOLLEY would be the world champion. So it was Mickael PICHON then that got the whole shot. Claudio FEDERICI there right beside him with Josh Coppins. Mickael not having the best of second races. He was off in the opening laps. It was PICHON, BOLLEY was right behind him, FEDERICI, Coppins, DeMaria, CROCKARD was in 6th place. BEIRER was 7th, Fabers, Cooper, Paget, Hughes the American was back. Ryan Hughes back in Grand Prix action. Meanwhile, Claudio FEDERICI was not having the best of races, dumping the bike unceremoniously on the floor. That would affect any chance he had of scoring major points. Meanwhile, out front, BOLLEY had now decided enough was enough. He wanted to be world champion again, and Mickael PICHON really could do nothing about it. Meanwhile, CROCKARD was chasing Coppins. This was the battle for 5th, 4th and 6th in the World Championship. And Coppins there alongside his teammate Mickael PICHON, and PICHON now fully aware of the fact that his World Championship hopes for this year had gone down the drain. Hughes back on the bike after a layoff and having that wrist injury fixed back in America, was on form going past BEIRER. Meanwhile, PICHON was dropping further down the field. He was in 8th place. FEDERICI moving up to 7th. BEIRER battling with Hughes, corner to corner to corner. Meanwhile, out front, the man on the number 1 bike was going to retain that number for next year. Frederic Bolley, the Frenchman, was going to win his 2nd World Championship in style by falling off on the finish line. But he didn't care. He was the world champion. Bolley then, from CROCKARD, Coppins, Cooper, BEIRER, Hughes and FEDERICI, top 7. The overall classification looked like this. Bolley with 2 wins from Coppins and CROCKARD, back on the podium. BEIRER, Cooper, FEDERICI and DeMaria. Bolley had won the World Championship with 410 points. Mickael PICHON could not catch him. The battle was all about 3rd, 4th and 5th now in the championship. But there was your new world champion as we moved to the final round at Rogenburg in Switzerland. And Josh Coppins did not have the best of Grand Prix.
And it was going okay, and I went a little bit wide on the corner before it, and then I thought it's okay, I'll get it back, and I turned in quite tight, and the back just stepped off over a rock or something, or just lifted, and then the back just came right around on me and I high-sided, and that's about all I remember.
Josh Coppins very lucky not to sustain more serious injury. A little bit sore, but he was out to race later on that afternoon. Mark Jones was back for the Palmo squad after missing most of the Grand Prix season with that badly broken wrist. So the crowd here, there is Coppins, ready for race 1. A little sore, a little bruised, but nevertheless unaffected from that big crash that he had in the qualifying session. The new world champion there, number 1 on the inside, Frederic Bolley, doesn't have to prove anything here. It's all about who's going to finish 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. Coppins is trying to finish higher than BEIRER. BEIRER is trying to finish higher than Coppins. But race 1, full of incident as always. Coppins going down. BEIRER it was that blocked him going into the corner. Heavy rain overnight here in Switzerland had made the circuit very tacky, very sticky. Conditions were treacherous in these opening few laps. As the crowd looked on and the riders picked their lines around each corner, it was a question of survival. For some, survival wasn't looking as good. Mark Jones back on the bike after a big absence, was not having the best of return Grand Prix. Meanwhile, DeMaria had capitalised on everybody's mistakes and was out in the lead. Federici was second. Mickael was there third, pressurising the Italian. Behind him, it was BEIRER, number 2, Mickael's teammate. Mickael looking to go up the inside and colliding with Federici. Federici relegated down one place to third. It was the turn now of BEIRER to go past Federici, sliding through on the inside. A little cleaner than his teammate Mickael had done. Bolley had had enough of this. He had decided, I'm already the world champion, I don't need to race in these kind of conditions. And he headed back to the pit area, not happy with the situation. Gordon Crockard had a very lucky escape when landing almost off the track from one of the big jumps. Ryan Hughes, back on the bike after a big absence in racing, was having a right tete-a-tete with Josh Coppins. Meanwhile, the two Team Kawasaki runners, BEIRER and Mickael Mickael, were having their own little private war. At this point, it was rumoured that BEIRER was going to leave the team to ride with Yamaha for next year. Marco Dorsch on the Millennium KTM, his race came to an untimely end after 7 laps, and poor old Mark Jones was just having a terrible return to Grand Prix racing, and he wasn't the only one. It was a question of survival in some cases. If you could stay on the bike, you had a chance of winning the race, and Mickael had mastered the conditions fantastically, sliding the bike into each corner. He was looking every bit a race winner. But it wasn't to be, because fellow Frenchman Yves DEMARIA took the win here in Heat 1 in Rogenburg in Switzerland. And DEMARIA happy with the result. BEIRER was second, Federici was third, Mickael fourth, Crockard, Hughes and Coppins rounding out that top 7. Well, our pom-pom girls had turned up again and were giving us a great show. They'd provided us with some great entertainment throughout the whole of the season, despite the weather. So Heat 2 came down onto the line. Hughes was on the line, winner of race 1, Yves DEMARIA. Heavy rain during the races had turned the track into an absolute quagmire. Who was going to get that all-important first corner? Mickael Mickael on the number 6 Kawasaki was looking good at this point, but they were all falling over each other, including race 1 winner, number 77, Yves DEMARIA. Coppins was not having the best of races either. DEMARIA had lost his gloves. Meanwhile, Mickael was out in front. His teammate BEIRER there behind him in second place, just recognisable. Then it was Federici. 35, Patrick Paget also in there as well. Zani was having a poor time. He'd got stuck in the mud. Meanwhile, out front, the battle were on between the two Kawasaki runners, but BEIRER making another mistake. DEMARIA, winner of Heat 1, had decided enough was enough. He pulled out of the race. Mickael was first, BEIRER was second. They started to lap the slower riders in these awful conditions. Bolley off the bike once again, but it didn't matter because he'd already been crowned the world champion. And for New Zealander Josh Coppins, those chances of being third in the series was sinking into the mud. Well, conditions were not getting any better, and some of the riders had decided enough was enough. Zani pulled out, so did Thabers, and so did Coppins. He'd given this one up. He was now not going to finish with a number 3 plate for next year, and it started to rain yet again. Bolley trying to get a better result here in race 2 after DNF in race 1. He was currently 5th behind Federici, trying to get past Federici, but track conditions were just worsening, lap after lap after lap. The riders becoming almost unrecognisable as Bolley tried in desperation to get past the Italian. The back end of the bike failing to pick up any grip, and the rain really started to pour down as we got into the final stages of the race. Mickael Mickael this time was on course to take the checkered flag and the last win of the 2000 season, one that will certainly be remembered if not for the weather conditions. So a win for Jan de Groot's Kawasaki team. Maschio from BEIRER, the two Kawasaki's 1 and 2. Paget, Federici, Bolley, Kadlacek and Gordon Crockard in 7th place. BEIRER took the overall result and a present to Jan de Groot before he leaves to join another team for next season. Bolley was the world champion, Pichon was 2nd, BEIRER held on to 3rd, Coppins was 4th and Crockard finished in 6th place overall in the standings. So BEIRER there with his very first overall result of the season here in Switzerland. He was the GP winner, but Frédéric Bolley from France was the world champion once again for the year 2001.